people, obviously, when we do blood testing for people, we ask them what they're on. And I've seen more of people's where bloods do not reflect what they're saying they're doing.
Okay.
Than normal. You get a bit now and again. You're always going to do. It's the nature of the black market. But it's been noticeably more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there could be some strength in the fact that what's coming over is poorer quality, because I've definitely seen more bloods where people say I'm on 400 mega test and their N-mol is 12, and it's like, well, you're not.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. With Dave Crosland, I'm Scott McNally, and all of our programming is brought to you by you, the people of Patreon. Thank you for your support. We're brought to you by evalbloodanalysis.com. You can get your labs done by Dave if you're in the UK, especially if you're on cycle. You should be getting your labs done, and you can do that through Eval Blood Analysis. We're brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. Use our code THINK for 10% off all your basic bodybuilding supplements, protein, creatine, intra-workout, all that stuff. Strong Sports Nutrition for those of you in the US and the UK. They have great health stacks like the Thrombomax, which is my personal favorite. Support Max, that's our base foundation product. You can stack those things together. And we are brought to you by SupplementSource.ca for Canadians. Great deals that change week to week. Dave, we're back. We missed a week because you were just being lazy. You were like, I don't want to do the show.
Yeah.
I don't like those guys. I don't like those people. I don't like the YouTubers. I don't like them. I don't like their viewers.
No, I just decided, bollocks to the lot, yeah. I'm going to sit at home and eat biscuits.
And that's not true. You had a bunch of stuff to do. You were setting up for an expo. We had a lot of feedback, not all positive on the last episode with Kurt Havens and the study that he did with that guy on Test Sip. I don't know, man. I thought we brought him on, let him say his piece, and I don't think he said anything like super crazy. Nothing that I was like, oh my God, I completely disagree with everything Kurt's saying. It just didn't seem as dramatic as it seemed on paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's. I mean, it wouldn't have been hard to pick holes in things, but what was the benefit or point of that? He's looked at one guy, he's seen a pattern in that, and he's now going to extend that to a larger catchment group to see if it's repeated, which is fine. All right, maybe a bit premature on discussing the outcome of the single individual, and whether he's done it or other people have twisted it to misrepresent what he said is hard to say. It's the internet at the end of the day.
Right.
And things can get, crazy really, really quickly. But, yeah, I mean, it was interesting that he had seen something. Does it fall into the realms of just people having different metabolisms for drugs? I would assume so. But it'll be the next study is going to be, if he gets that off the ground and gets that done, that's going to be a little bit more interesting because there's a greater volume. But it really does need a large-scale study to support, which is obviously going to be incredibly expensive and very difficult to fund.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, for anybody who's new here just tuning in, Dave is an expert witness for the UK court system, testifying in cases of PEDs. You used to do a lot of education with the police and military. You're not doing that so much anymore, but you've been considered to be a knowledgeable source for PEDs, especially over there in the UK. And, of course, you see tons of labs every day through your company. So if people are wondering, like, hey, what are we doing here? That's Dave, and I've been coaching for the last decade full time. So we're just happy to freely share our education and our experience with you guys.
Can I ask you a question, Scott?
Yes, Dave, ask me a question.
Why did you decide to take up coaching at the age of 50?
Oh, All right, listen, I'm going to, instead of getting caught off by that, I'm going to continue my ramble to introduce our topic. And we are going to take a bunch of listener questions as we always do. But we had one guy who sent this to us. And he's not alone. We've had a few people who've made similar statements. All right. He says, hello, Uncle Diabolical Dave and Scott McNasty. All right. We got new names, I guess. Please comment on the test shortage in the U.S. I'm hearing more and more from people whose TRT clinics or UGL are running into items being out of stock that are commonly available, specifically Test E, Test P, and Sustanon. Is this more China related, like the Mastageddon? Is the demand for test rapidly increasing? What are your thoughts? Thank you. And thanks for tuning in, brother. We appreciate it.
I love that phrase, Mastageddon. That we should have used that when we reported on that mass stuff.
He actually said Mast Armageddon, but I said Mastageddon. And we were calling it the Bropocalypse, just to be clear.
Now, I haven't seen anything over here.
Okay.
TRT, particularly in the UK, is booming. Massively booming. Now, whether that's is enough of an uptake of new custom to dint supply, I honestly don't know. A lot of the test single ester stuff over here comes in from Europe, whereas a lot of the Sustanon is UK produced.
Okay.
But UK single ester is stupidly expensive. So generally what the TRT labs will do is they'll buy in from mainland Europe for nth or SIP.
Yeah.
When we originally started sniffing around the Masteron and Primo stuff, the Chinese sources that I spoke to had suggested that there could be broad spectrum shortages across all compounds, including test.
Yeah.
But that never seemed to materialise, so I never really thought any more of it. I'm not hearing anything currently, but then I haven't really spoke to anybody either.
Okay.
So, I don't know if it's just a stateside thing. I don't know if with the pharma stuff, there's plenty of stateside-based pharmaceutical companies to produce the hormone, but the raws do still tend to primarily come from China. So,
well, I've got some stuff because I did some digging on this, and I had heard from a couple people who had told me the same thing, that their test was out of stock. Now, I think here's the first thing, Dave. When we talk about this, I think that we probably already have people commenting like, no way, man, test is still in stock. My source has it. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's the first thing. We heard that all through the Mast and Primo shortage too. We'll say that Primo has been hard to get. Instantly, what happens? We have somebody who comments like, my source still has Primo, never stopped. Everything's going great. Sure. It's kind of like me saying, Dave, it's raining outside, and then you look out your window.
It's sunny here today.
Thank you. Yeah. So, more power to you. Crack on if you still have it. But I have heard of a couple sources being out, and I did talk to one of those sources. So he literally hasn't had Test E specifically. And then get this, he said, and I have another person I talked to too who has some further insight, but this source, he said that even when he has been getting test, that he's struggling to get like good legit stuff, that the purity has gone way downhill. In fact,
that I have seen actually more shit gear in bloods more recently than I have for a while.
What do you mean?
So people, obviously, when we do blood testing for people, we ask them what they're on.
Yeah, of course.
Both drugs and doses. And I've seen more of people's where bloods do not reflect what they're saying they're doing.
Okay.
Than normal. You get a bit now and again. You're always gonna do. It's the nature of the black market, but it's been noticeably more.
Yeah.
There could be some strength in the fact that what's coming over is poorer quality, because I've definitely seen more bloods where people say I'm on 400 mega test and their N-mol is 12, and it's like, well, you're not.
Yeah.
Quite
Check
simply, you're not.
So this is one of the lab results so this is from the source that I was talking about. And he's trying to restock his supply of Test E. He gets his most recent batch in, and the raw powder is testing out at 93.8%.
Which is not terrible.
It's not terrible, but it's not it's not great either, because what's in the rest of that, I think a lot of that comes down to when people say like, oh man, my test has been really painful, you know. I think that it can be due to impurities like this.
It can be, or it could just be, yeah. I mean, the only thing I would say with that is I would have said, you know what, 10% I'd be actually happy with. And I don't think from a progress point of view, I don't think anybody would notice the fucking difference.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably right, but I mean,
I'm talking stuff coming through that's like 10% active.
Oh God.
You know what I mean? Or 20%. That's what we're seeing is more than... We will probably see a couple of crappy sets of bloods where showing that someone's not taking what they're taking and that the gear is either completely, totally nothing at all or it's very low dosed. We might see 1 or 2 a week.
Okay.
1 or 2 every couple of weeks. We don't see loads.
Okay. And you're seeing a fair amount of labs on it. I mean, each
now,
day, so.
But it's been noticeable. And it's not... It does seem to be slightly regional as well. But then we've not... And then all of a sudden we're seeing... Where we'd see 1 or 2, we're seeing 4, 5 and 6.
Oh, okay.
So it's enough to notice it, but not enough to go, ooh, you know, there's a major problem here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there could be something in it.
I talked to one of the supermods over at one of the source boards to see what he had to say about it. And he said there was a shortage a couple months back on a couple of esters. I know many who had to resort to selling decanate test to get by, as there was plenty of it. It's only a day or two difference in the half-life from SIP. So I'd venture to guess many were selling decanate as sipinate, etc. But that seems to have gotten much better. Most of the Chinese sources I talked to don't have an issue with test now. That being said, they may have been out of nth, but had plenty of sust or phenylpropionate. I think some of this was excuses to drive the prices up, but some China sources are still getting test 400 at a very reasonable price in bulk. So yes, there was a shortage on some esters, but it has been rectified lately. So I'm wondering, Dave, if there was a shortage, if maybe some of the smaller U.S. UGOs are, maybe still feeling that pinch.
Yeah, it's going to take time, isn't it, for things to filter down.
To trickle down. Yeah.
If you've got a raw shortage in China, say in January, it might be March, April before that actually reflects in the market because of people buying stock and when they get to that stock. So you could have quite quite numerous weeks in delay if there's been a euro shortage back end of last year, beginning of this year, and it's only just really rippling through the market now.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had heard that about when Mast and Primo went down. I heard people claiming that, like, we're still working through the back catalog of what had been the supply that had been built up, for the last 2 years or whatever that, which makes sense. So I could see that, man. I don't know. I guess, word of caution, right? You get your gear tested, number one.
Yeah, I think if it's significantly underdosed, you're going to feel that. That's going to be very much a direct response to it. You're going to feel it. Obviously, if it's only marginally underdosed, you probably won't notice that. So it all depends on how it values you, how much you. Sorry, I'm making really crappy words here. It's all down to you personally, how much it bothers you if what you're buying is 10-15% underdosed, and you're like, well, the real world impact of that's not that great. I'm happy to run with that. Or if you want to be, on the point and make sure you're getting exactly what you're paying for.
Yeah.
Testing ain't cheap. That's the downside of it. It's friggin' expensive.
Blunt Force Tanya says, Paul Barnett has seen similar. He does tons of lab reviews. So I don't know if she maybe means he sees similar to what you were talking about.
Yeah, I think that's what she's saying, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yes, I've seen more than I have done for a while.
What do you think about that idea of people, the sources, subbing in test decanate instead of test sit. Like, I bet you that a lot of people would never even be the wiser.
No, and I've seen that across the board. Test sip instead of test N, test decadate instead of test Ns, even occasionally test prop thrown in there. And usually it's down to the fact that, look, we've run out of this. We don't have the raw for it, but we have this test raw, so fuck it, let's just bang it out. And then, new supply comes in a couple of weeks later, they go back to normal production and everything runs on. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. You also see stuff like, in fact, I've just done a defence case for a supply job, a supply and manufacture job, actually. And there was a combined oral of D-bol and oxymethylone. Now, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that, because there's no lab branding on this, so I don't know what they were selling out at is in the terms of a lab brand. But there are some labs that will do combination orals to make them stand out and be a little bit different. But the other thing is that it's actually supposed to be oxys, and they've run out of raw, so they've just diluted it with D-bol because it's cheaper.
Now, okay, so just to back up for a second, when you're doing one of these court cases, the government, just for anybody who hasn't been following along with all of our episodes, the government literally tests the compounds that they confiscate from somebody that gets busted, right?
Yes.
So you're talking about seeing lab results that the police have done on confiscated products. And what did you say you're seeing in this?
There was a number of oral tablets recovered.
Okay.
And they tested as dianabol and oxymethylone combined. Now,
you said dianabol.
I know. I went all American. Now, the police labs very rarely do the strength of the drug unless there's a specific reason that they have to.
Okay.
They will do it with stuff like cocaine because that's important. Purity of cocaine is important when you're doing a legal case. But with steroids, they don't generally bother. So I don't know what the concentration of D-bol was to oxy. Now, like I said, some labs do produce blended orals. I've got no labelling in the case. I've got no branding in the case, so I don't know what these tablets were to be sold as. But it's also common that if the two common substitutes for orals are D-bol or methyl test.
Yeah.
And if you see a lot of methyl test in testing, when very few labs actually sell methyl test as an oral.
But it's very cheap.
It's very cheap. So if you see methyl test when we're looking at the forensics, generally speaking, it's because the lab's being sly and using it to produce fake orals.
Okay.
But yeah, it's quite a big and complex case because there's 3 unalivings involved, and there's a lot of other drugs involved.
Dang, man, this sounds like a heavy case.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing the defense on it, but I'm only doing the anabolic side of it.
So there's recreational stuff involved with this too.
Yeah, mainly stuff like oxycodone and stuff like that.
Okay.
So more medications of abuse rather than class A recce's.
Okay. Wow, man. That sounds like an intense one.
It's big.
Okay.
The paperwork's like this.
Is it?
Yeah.
Do they have a date for you to come in yet and go over everything and
I've
testify?
just submitted the draft report, so I'm waiting for feedback on that.
Okay.
They'll come back to me on if there's anything in there they're not happy with, they don't like, or anything that's changing. There's a lot of people involved, but I'm only doing the defence on one singular person, and I'm only dealing with the anabolics.
Yeah.
There's not a huge amount of anabolics, to be fair, not for a manufacturer situation.
Okay.
You know, there's a few, but there's not.
I mean, that's probably not where the big money is when you're dealing with all that other stuff.
Yeah, it's all a bit messed up. The unaliving has been people that were involved with the operation due to misuse of compounds. There's nothing sinister about it in any other way.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's a lot of paperwork and a bit of a mess to work through. But we'll see.
Huh. Okay, so check this out. I texted Paul Barnett from Anabolic Bodybuilding, which a lot of our listeners watch his stuff too. But if you're not, go check out Anabolic Bodybuilding. Paul's doing a bunch of great stuff. So Blunt Force Tanya had said, she mentioned that Paul Barnett has seen similar. He does a ton of lab reviews. So I texted him and said, hey, man, have you been seeing more Bunk tests lately? And he said, yeah, dude, it is bad. He said one source board just yanked 2 different brands. One of those brands I'm familiar with, it's a well-known brand. He said just yanked 2 well-known brands from their store. Both had Bunk test. I've done multiple consults recently with guys with 300 test levels on hundreds of milligrams of test. So this is a thing, apparently.
So it would sound like there is definitely something.
Yeah. And like I said, this other guy that I know, this guy who, and it's unfortunate, man, the guy that I showed you those lab results, I mean, he bought a quantity of that powder, and I said, well, what's going to happen? Can you get this reimbursed? And he's real finicky on making sure that he has super high quality, like pharma standard, right? I mean, if you're starting out with 93%, Dave, like you're only going to be able to go downhill from there. You know what I mean? Once you start mixing everything together and creating a product, right?
All you do is put more raw ingredient in. It just means he gets less product out of the concentrate test that he's got.
Yeah, you get, but what's the other 7%?
Well, probably nothing. It's probably nothing. It's probably just got a low concentration of test in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. But I do think, though, that it's those contaminants. Sometimes that's where we, run into issues. Like, why was my test so painful? That could be an answer right there. He also added, he said, Dave Crosland might know more since he's plugged in, but I've heard a couple of big brands were outsourcing their manufacturing to stuff in China and got batches of bad gear from China.
Well, there were a couple of brands saying that they were going for licenses to manufacture in China.
Right. Yeah. I remember that.
You remember that? Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
So I don't know what's come of that. I don't know if that's actually happened or not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why China wouldn't give them the money, right? It's like, or give them the license if they had the money, right?
Yeah, I think as long as they're getting paid, they're not bothered.
Right. All right. Well, cool. You guys keep us posted. Let us know. What have you heard? I mean, I'm sure there's going to be tons of people that say, like, man, test is all in stock. It's all fine. And I get it. But,
yeah, it might be.
It might be for you.
We are seeing some changes, definitely. Like I said, for what I've seen, it tends to be more regionalised. So certain areas seem to be getting hit.
Okay.
Why, hello! I wanted to do something different with my True Nutrition advertisement for today. And here's the thing, I just got our order in. Victoria and I, we pay for all the protein that we get. They don't send us anything for free. And that's because I've believed in True Nutrition for 15 years now. I've been using them ever since I contest prep. They have some of the cleanest, best quality protein. A lot of times I use the Team Skip, but here's the deal. I'm going back to the Pure Whey Isolate. The Pure Whey Isolate, it just processes so fast. This is my favorite flavor, chocolate peanut butter cup. But if you want to try just like 1 pound at a time, you can do that. Just sample it. I've never had the cookie butter, so I'm going to try the cookie butter this week. We got a big old bag of pea protein isolate for the wife. This is what she likes to use. And here's the thing, they're just about wholesale prices at True Nutrition. Plus, they don't add the flavor in when they weigh it. So you get like legit 1 pound of protein, and then from there they add the flavor after that. So every 1 pound, I think it's like 1.2. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. But hey, here's the thing, True Nutrition is a great quality protein. They believe in us. They advertise with us because I literally asked them to. And if you use our code THINK, you'll get some additional savings. Plus, of course, that's like voting for our podcast. So thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed my my impromptu ad. Goodbye.
All right. Well, we do have a bunch of listener questions, Dave. Do you want to answer listener questions today?
No. Not really.
No. That's what we do here usually.
Yeah, but I'm a little confused because there's this big yellow ball in the sky that I haven't seen for several months and I don't know what it is.
Oh, yeah, you guys don't get one of those in England very often, do you?
Mate, I've never known it rain so much. I'm born and bred, and I've never known it rain as much as it fucking has done. Yeah, it's strange. I'm just like, people are wandering around the streets staring up at the sky confused, not knowing what it is.
The skin is instantly burning.
Yeah.
I don't have much room. I'm very pale. So anyway, listener questions. You guys are welcome to take part in the show. In fact, your comments and likes and all that stuff, it helps to boost our programming in the algorithm. And so if you want to take part, definitely join us. And we'd love to have you along for everything we do. We have several podcasts each week. So subscribe, hit the bell, hit the hype button, all that good stuff. Dave, did you know there's a hype button now?
Yeah, you've told me sometimes. I've never found it, but then that'll probably be because I never go on the channel.
Yeah. All right. So up next, first question here is, yes, Dave and Scott, can we do a small catch up on your next video on test NPP EQ cycle and swapping out the NPP for Tren toward the end? Also, what other platforms do you guys have where you can go into more details if there are any? I watch a video or two every night before bed, and the missus goes mad. Haha. So he's forcing his wife to watch episodes of Drugs and Stuff every night.
Okay.
We post on Spotify. We post on Rumble sometimes. I try to keep up on Rumble, but Spotify, all your audio podcast apps, we're all over the place. We're there too. And we have a group over at Facebook. We can talk a little bit more in depth there. And we can, of course, talk more in depth on Patreon too. But Facebook is good. Facebook group, Think Big Bodybuilding.
Or reach out and get a direct consult with one of us. But
there's that. Or go to Dave's course. Did you just start your course up? Thursday this week.
Mm-hmm. Which won't be, it'll be Thursday last week by the time this is out on the thing.
Okay.
But yeah, a test EQ, MPP, perfectly fine cycle using EQ instead of Master or Primo for the estrogen management, etc. And then, yes, you could definitely drop the MPP and move to Tren. That wouldn't be a problem from a point of view of compounds at all. See no issue there whatsoever. I don't know what really more there is to say about that one, to be honest.
I think it's a classic cycle, man. I like it. I'd even venture, if you have the right ratios, I like a little bit of injectable D-ball in there for the first, 4 weeks.
Just ignore Scott. He's an idiot.
Oh, that was my go-to, man. That was my personal favorite, was test, EQ, NPP. And my bro logic at the time, Dave, was, so the NPP, because we always felt that the EQ really took shape 6 weeks in, 8 weeks in. But I knew, like, hey, when I run NPP, I feel like 2 weeks in, I'm like feeling good, feeling full, strong, and the test is building up through the whole thing. So why don't I start NPP at the beginning, and while that EQ is building up. So I always liked that, like first 6 weeks, first 8 weeks NPP. And then, the switch into Tren, it's a move.
Yeah, it's definitely not necessary. It also depends what your goal is, what your aim is, what you're trying to get out the back of this.
Yeah.
But there's no issue with doing that. I mean, my thoughts on Tren. Use it sparingly, don't use it very often. But that's not to say that everyone else feels the same way. It is a powerful drug, and it will have positive effects in the sense of helping your development. So, yeah, as long as all things are equal, I don't see an issue.
All right. We'll jump to the next one. And I was just responding back to Paul to say thank you for his contribution to the show, even though he didn't know he was contributing at the time. We kind of tricked Big Paul from Anabolic Bodybuilding into joining us for a minute there. What is the big difference? What?
You do that to me every week.
Hey, Dave, you want to hang out on video? And then I just hit the button.
Yeah, promises me cake and all sorts. Never turns up.
Why? Oh, yeah. So I really liked this one. Why is there such differing opinions in the bodybuilding world whether Mast or Primo is the better mass builder?
I've no idea. Personally, for me, from an anabolics point of view and looking at the compounds in that sense, I would always say that Mast is the better mass builder than Primo. But, Primo's being used a lot. The problem is with this, you can't take someone who, say someone does Test and Primo, and they do an off-season on Test and Primo and they grow well.
Mm-hmm.
You can't then wind the clock back and give them Test and Mast and see if they grow anymore.
Because they already had that first experience,
Yeah. So that's the problem. Is it's almost it's borderline impossible to do any comparison between the two drugs from a point of view of with the same person. And people's reactions vary, people's training ethics varies, people's diets vary. So there's so many elements to this.
Yeah.
But on the base of it, and it's very anecdotal and it's very broad spectrum, I see mass being more productive. But the other problem we always have with all this, is particularly with UGLs and particularly over the last 6 months, is it mast or is it Primo? And that's
or is it just more test?
Yeah, that's the other big problem we have. So it's always difficult to do these comparisons.
Yeah.
But for me, I do find mast the better compound from experience and other people that I've seen work with the two drugs. Primo's got popular because it's very easy to live with, and it was also very promoted around being minimally health impacting.
Yeah, it has, hasn't it?
And I don't know if that's a fair... It is in some ways, but if you're increasing... but if you're increasing the dose significantly in order to get the progress you want from the drug, then it's sort of like, hang on a minute, are you better using half the dose but using a stronger compound rather than banging in a gram of Primo when, you could be getting away with 400, 500 a deca. So it's... But I also think that people... This is a more complex conversation, but I do think that people are more exacting and more demanding of their drugs now. What I mean by that, now I do think this is a reflection in society and a reflection in general well-being and mental health across the board, because I think it's gone down the frigging toilet. But go back 15, 20 years and there was very much an attitude of you took the drugs, you put up with what happened. If you felt a bit crap, tough shit, suck it up, buttercup, you're dealing with it. Whereas people have got much more, no, I don't want to feel like that, and I don't want to do that, and I don't want to have to put up with that experience. So that's driven their drug choices as well. In the same with injection protocols where, people would only use an insulin pin, whereas I grew up with my steroid use in an era where most of us were banging it in with greens. Why? Because that's what we had. And it was just, it's just what you did. So I think the average anabolic user has become more demanding as well around what they are willing to tolerate in order to make progress.
Absolutely.
That's both potentially a positive and a negative depending on where you sit with all this. But so I think that's shaped compound choices as well quite a lot, because people don't want to deal with feeling low mood or the problems that can come with using Deca, particularly around that sort of stuff. And so I think, like I say, I think the average steroid user has become... I don't want to use the word sensitive, but I can't think of anything better than that at the moment, in the sense of how they feel on compounds, where 20 years ago we just got on with it because that's what you did. You knew no better.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll say this, man. So Mast in Primo, which is a better mass builder. Why does the bodybuilding world not be able to agree on that? Like, some people like some compounds, some people like others, and it's like you said, man. I mean, I'm probably in part partial to D-ball because it was the first thing I ever ran, and I had such a good experience with a little tiny dose of D-ball, and so. There's some nostalgia in there, Can I say that D-ball has got a lot of problems too, and a lot of potential risks and issues? Yeah, dude, absolutely, man. But there's still part of me that's like, yeah, D-ball's a great compound, So I do think that we kind of have that personal experience, as you were kind of saying. That's part of it.
Yeah,
And then
I
it's,
agree.
what do we respond to, right? I could say, I think that EQ is a much better mass builder than either Primo or Mast. But then you take somebody else that says, "Oh God, I take EQ and I get terrible anxiety." Look at Kuba. Kuba has built the majority of his muscle on Test and a
Primo.
DHT. You know, Test and Primo. Now that flies in the face of everything I was kind of raised to understand about Primo. Right? Primo was thought to be a hardening compound back in the day.
I think what people sometimes fail to understand about Kuba is his level of dedication and adherence. The only person I would say I've met, now there will be others, I'm not saying there aren't others, but that I've met that has that level of adherence and dedication is JP.
Yeah. Okay.
Kuba is an absolute robot when it comes to his diet and his training and everything else. And even he's now venturing into playing with EQ and MPP.
Yeah.
Because I think I don't know for certain, he's not told me this. He has told me that he's going to try the new compounds, but I think he feels that he may have come to his limit with what he can get out of Test and Primo.
Dude, if that's the limit that you can get out of Test and Primo, then I don't think most of us should have ever run anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you've got a man that dots every I and crosses every T to perfection in how he runs his life and what he does.
He truly is an example of taking it to, like, getting the most out of what you're doing. He really is.
Yeah, very is. Yeah, he's very dedicated. He's very strict with himself. His application is flawless. And yeah, so he goes against the grain, but he also goes against the grain with his application of what he does. There aren't many, even in the pro ranks, that I would say are that dedicated and that disciplined and that regimented.
Yeah. Somebody in the live stream had asked us about a minimum dose of Tren. Lowest effective dose of Tren. I've heard Vigorous Steve mention he tried 25 and Dr. Dean did 40 at his last show. Any experiences with microdosing? So I assume that means 25 per week, and I assume that means 40 per week.
Yeah, I would say 25. I've seen some people get response. Again, it does go down to adherence, you know, how good everything else is. The more everything else is on point, then the more likely you're going to get a response from low doses.
True.
I think a lot of it is also what you're wanting to achieve, and I'm a big advocate of looking at drugs like tools, and you select the tool for the job you're wanting to try and achieve.
Yeah.
So my first question is, why do you want to run Tren? What is it that you want out of Tren?
Yeah.
You know, what's unique about Tren that will give you the effect that you're looking for that no other drug does? And then once that bit's answered, and then you know, come on, if you want to use it. But I think as well, there's obviously one of the reasons Tren got so popular and got his reputation was because it was getting results in people that otherwise wouldn't have done. Because the diet was shit, the training was shit, you know, and Tren just overpowered all that. And so it got that reputation and fame from that. But I think if you are super on point, then yeah, you'll grow on very low doses, depending on your level of development as well. I mean, if you're a 340-pound monster, then maybe not. But you know, if you're just 180 pounds and you know 5'8" and relatively okay condition wise, then yeah, you'll probably get away with quite low doses and get something out of them.
Yeah, I would say that if like, so I don't know what else Dean was doing, but I would suspect that he wasn't relying on that trend. That it was more like he probably, he probably would have either way looked pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Like he would have looked pretty similar with or without it. And if you're ready, like if you're contest lean and all of that, then adding in even 10 Tren, like it could only help at that point. Like it might not help a lot, but it could only help. I guess that my question would be, in the case of a contest situation, if you're trying to get benefit out of it, how much can you handle before it starts to become an issue? How much further could you push it? Because obviously the more you take, the more effect you're going to get, but then the more side effects you're going to get too. I would say, so if I took 25 per week, that's going to be an average of like less than 5 milligrams per day, right? That's pretty low. Like, cost to that, as far as side effects and risks, is going to be extremely low. Benefit to that is also going to be extremely low, So then we go to Dean's 40. Cost to that, also very low. Benefit to that, I would say, still pretty low. It's not like that's the answer to getting a ripped hard look. Would it only help? Yeah, but I would think, I would say in a contest scenario, 100 milligrams probably, that at that dose per week, I think you can get a stronger effect from it without risking a lot of the side effects. That would be kind of my low end area.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, what else do we have here? Question for the next show. I have another 30 pounds of weight to lose. I'm on TRT plus. Sorry, Dave. I am currently on 5 IUs of growth. I have already lost 130 pounds.
Well done.
I have stalled recently, and I'm wondering if I'm wasting my GH because I am trying to find new balance at this lower weight. Should I stop taking it and wait till I lose the final pounds and use it to then lean bulk cycle later? I have been on GH for about 3 months probably.
So weight loss has stalled, and he's wondering whether it's pointless carrying on with the GH because weight loss has stalled. GH is an all right fat burner. Obviously, timing would play into that. It wants to be morning if you're going to focus on fat loss. Though there's plenty of crossover either way.
Yeah, I don't think it matters the time personally.
I think there's a little benefit to it, but I still think you'll get some benefit from PM dosing as well. I mean, it's going to be a case of reviewing where you are. Have you brought your calories down again to adjust to the new weight, or have you just plateaued because you're now at maintenance with the calories you're eating?
Yeah.
Are your calories already low and therefore you're struggling to find another direction, which might mean you need to increase output? Or has everything just started to stall because your thyroid function has gone low and your body's gone very much like, that's a lot of weight to lose and it's difficult to maintain progress at that point.
Yeah.
So you might need a period of time where the food comes up a little bit, or you take the foot off the gas from a weight loss point of view and just let things settle and then drive again. But I'd definitely look at things like HbA1c, look at thyroid function, and just see where they are.
Yeah.
And see if there's any contribution there to the fact that fat loss has stalled, particularly if you have been progressive with your calorie reduction or you have been progressive with your calorie output.
Yeah.
And have you done anything in the way of like refeeds and stuff like that? Have you had high calorie short burst intervals to try and break the cycle of your body starting to slow down and go more preservation based?
Yeah. Yeah, I could see all of that. All I think makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, is he just tracking the scale? Is he using pictures as well? I mean, if he still has 30 pounds to lose, you should still be seeing weight drop. But sometimes the pictures will continue to improve as the weight holds. If you're using enough gear, sometimes the scale doesn't move. Mm-hmm. So I would look at that. I'd ask myself, is my waist still coming in? Are the pictures improving? But I think you might be onto something, Dave, because I've seen it more than once where he's already lost 130 pounds, 30 pounds to
That's
go.
a lot of weight to drop.
And a lot of times, man, I'll have somebody who has a lot of fat to lose. I put them on a diet and we don't need to make a lot of changes. That we get the diet rolling and 8 weeks later, we're using the same plan or close to the same plan. He may have been able to lose that 130 pounds without having made many changes at all.
Exactly.
And it might just be time where now you do need to start maybe pulling things back, pushing a little bit harder, in order to continue getting the fat loss.
I think when you've come from high weight as well, and you're talking high levels of fat loss, the calorie, unfortunately, drop at the end tends to need to be quite aggressive to maintain progress. Yeah, more so than if you were dropping 40 pounds in total. You know, I mean, that's 160 pound drop. That's a person.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot of weight, and massive credit for the progress so far. But I have tend to found that when people are on long weight loss journeys, the end calories tend to be lower than you'd expect them needing to be to just get those last bits off.
Yeah. And I wonder, so, you know, because sometimes to lose 100 pounds, you can do that whilst just cleaning the diet up. You know, maybe you go from eating 2 times a day and it's garbage to now eating chicken and rice and a couple protein shakes, right?
Yeah. I mean,
maybe that's worked for a long time. And maybe just say you're getting in four meals with carbs. Try pulling the carbs out of one of those meals and see what happens. Yeah. Adding 5 minutes to cardio, you know, something like that. Hey lads, question for the next show. If it's interesting enough, well, we'll see, Dave. You let me know if this is interesting enough. Was planning a blast, a bulk cycle in May. 500 tests, 250 EQ, 16 to 20 weeks. Introducing NPP at 300 milligrams a week after 4 weeks for 12 weeks. So, yeah, basically just the first 4, no NPP. I titrate up to those doses, by the way.
What are the total doses again?
So the total doses are 500 tests, 250 EQ. He's going to run that all the way through. And after 4 weeks, he's going to add in 300 NPP.
Okay. So why?
There's more.
Okay.
But I've managed to score several bottles of Primo after the drought. Would you lower the EQ to 150 and add Primo at 150 to 200 milligrams? Would they even be effective? Or drop the EQ completely, or save the Primo for another day? He's mid-40s, looking to keep his hematocrit in check, E2 under control, and he has aromasin on hand, not looking to compete, just put on some muscle. Cheers.
I would approach it slightly differently.
Okay.
So I would probably do an increase at 3 to 4 weeks, an increase at 6 to 7 weeks, and so I'd put the MPP in either at 150 at 3 to 4, and then go up to 300 at 6 to 7, and I would increase the test and EQ on the same format. I think if the way he's doing it, I don't really see the point of a 4-week titrate up. That, 500 meg and 250 EQ, I'd just start it. If that's where you're at and that's what you want to do, I'd just start it.
Yeah.
I do think that bringing the MPP in at a later date is a nice little thing. I like cycles that grow, but I don't think you need to titrate sort of on a really slow curve with your initial dosing. And the dosing isn't particularly high, so I wouldn't be overly concerned about that, unless you were going to make the whole cycle progressive with dosing. And if that was the case, I would have 2 jumps up so that it goes further into the cycle, but potentially run the total dosing a little bit higher on the back end of the cycle. I wouldn't bother with the Primo with the setup you're running. I don't think it's going to add anything. If anything, it might actually take away slightly. I'd save it for, especially if you're bulking. And I know we just discussed Cuba's ability to grow well on Primo, but I would probably save that for when you want to cut. And stick with the test EQ and MPP for the bulk.
Yeah, I could see that. I'd say pick one, either the Primo or the EQ.
Yeah, I wouldn't blend it. No, I wouldn't use both.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm with you. I don't really see a need to like titrate those doses up. I'd just start them up, run them.
I mean, if I was looking at that cycle and I was overhauling it, I would probably do 300 tests, 150 EQ to week 4. Then I'd go 500 test, 250 EQ, 150 MPP to week 7. Then I'd put the MPP up to 300, but I'd also bring the test up a little bit more to 600 and bring the EQ up to 300.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess around with all that.
Yeah, I like to have these progressive jumps up to a dose that would be slightly higher if you were going to run it flat rate all the way through.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that. I could see, like, here's the thing, man. You know what's funny is I feel like in some cases in the bodybuilding world, because I don't necessarily, I probably wouldn't do that, but I'm also like, okay, I could also see it working. Like, it's not like it's not going to work. But it's funny, Dave, because I feel like sometimes in the bodybuilding world, if we don't agree about how you want to use illegal drugs versus how I want to use them, then I automatically am like, I don't like Dave Crosland. He doesn't know crap.
Look, there's a million different ways to skin a cat. You know what I mean? And there's lots of different ways you can approach this, and personal preference plays into it, as well as your own ability to tolerate certain compounds, where you are in your life, how adherent you are, you know, how well you are, how physically healthy you are. There's a load of things that come in. So there's obvious things that are high risk. But beyond that, as long as you're fairly sensible, it doesn't need to be super complex. But then simplicity doesn't sell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This industry thrives on complexity because it sells, but it's not really that necessary.
All right, what's this guy say here? Oh, please, please, please help me. What do you take for elbow pain and recover from lifting heavy weights?
The first thing, and this is the uncomfortable truth, is get someone to review how you train.
The first guy who responded said, take rest and don't do things that hurt.
It's not a bad approach. But yeah, I think the first thing is to look at why do I have elbow pain? You know, am I doing something on a regular basis that's irritating my joints and causing me problems? Is it my rep style? Is it my form? Is it the speed I'm training at? Is it because I'm going too heavy too often? What is behind the problem? And then obviously rest, physio, hot and cold treatments, GH, BPC, TB are all going to help the recovery, but they're not going to help the recovery in view of a constant aggravation being caused because the training isn't right for you.
Yeah.
So the first thing is find the cause, and if it's there, eliminate it. The second thing, I mean, it could just be that, you know, you slip, bang your elbow, and it's been giving you shit ever since. Slightly different, probably a rest scenario. But if it's come from training, the first thing I'd be doing is reviewing, right, how did this happen? Have I caused this? And am I continuing to cause this because of how I'm training?
Yeah.
And then once you've removed the cause element, then you can start looking at the rehab and things you can do to support it. Because if you start trying to rehab it and support it, but you're still poking, you know, if you've got a sore eye and you're putting ointment on, but you're still poking a stick in it in between, it ain't going to get that better, you know?
Yeah. Dude, when I worked a physical job, plus bodybuilding, I would get more elbow issues. And it's because I was using my grip so much between, lifting, holding the bar real tight, and then also using my hands to pick up heavy things, move heavy things, all that. It's generally, so we get a lot of either tennis elbow or golf elbow in bodybuilding. And a lot of times it's an overuse of the grip. So number one, figure out what's causing it. Eliminate exercises that truly irritate it, and then figure out how to. A lot of times it's strengthening the grip up through exercises like it's a really good one, Dave. Remember the old school? You take a broomstick and you tie a rope to it, and you have a 5-pound plate on the end, you roll it up and then you roll it down. That's a good one.
The other thing is, if it's overuse of grip, it's things like, because you see this when people press and they're like trying to squeeze the bar in two, and it's like, just relax. You know what I mean? You don't need to be squeezing the bar.
Yeah. I even found, like, if I had tennis elbow, just picking up heavy dumbbells to press with. If you're picking up 100-pound dumbbells, like, that is going to require a lot of grip. I would.
Heavy.
Yeah, hundreds are heavy, Dave. For presses. Yeah. Yeah, they are. So you're not doing a row, so I'm not thinking to strap them, but I would definitely still strap just to pick those up, get into the seat, and then loosen the strap so you're not locked in if you have to bail.
I was probably a pain in the arse to people, but I was very religious about having dumbbells passed to me rather than trying to throw them up.
Oh, yeah?
Because that's when the injuries always happen. So, in saying that, someone knackered my shoulder because I couldn't lift the fucking dumbbell, the idiot.
I remember seeing Stan Efforting at the animal cage at the Arnold, and they had 200-pound dumbbells there. And they had him on like a headset, so he could talk to the audience and everything. And he was like, the thing about pressing the 200s is you got to be able to kick them up. If you can't kick them up, it doesn't really count. And I watched him pick them up off the floor, walk over, sit down, and then kick those fuckers up into position and press them like a dozen times.
That's strong.
That was crazy, man.
Yeah, that's strong.
Yeah, it was cool. All right, wish him luck. And look into physical therapy for tennis elbow or golf elbow. See what you can get. Stretching.
Yeah, I mean, you could find that it's actually forearm tightness that's creating some of the problem, and your forearms just need relaxing down, things like that.
Yeah. All right. Oh, more stuff about test sip. What else do we have here? Oh, you know what? We didn't bring up. There's a reason I screen capped this one. We didn't bring up to Kurt was carrier oil. I remember when Scott Stevenson and I did a deep dive about variations, because we did a whole show. I think it was episode 100, things about steroids that you need to know, something like that, of muscle minds. We did we looked at a bunch of research about test sip, and there was great variability, anywhere from as short as like 3-day half-life for one guy in the studies. Carrier oil made a massive difference in the half-life.
All right.
Castor oil versus, say, an MCT oil, there was a massive difference in how fast a compound would disperse.
Because of the cleaving from the carrier.
Just because of how viscous it is. A heavy carrier is going to sit in the muscle, not get as dispersed. Oh, dude. I want to see if I can I screen share? There's a comment here, and I just, let's see if I can find this one and actually share it with you, Dave. Because I want you to, yeah, I can. All right, give me just a minute here. Now, who is this? James Carter. We love you, brother, but you got to learn punctuation, all right? I was trying to understand what he meant by this, and I thought maybe you might do a better job than me. All right, here it is, Dave. Can you read this?
The good old pyramid system, warm up, moderate, heavy, back off 3 exercises. It may be effective 1 month of the year. Once you start going, what do you think, Scott? Great shows you. Yeah, okay, I got
See
that.
what I'm saying?
No. So
the good old pyramid system.
Yeah, so
warm
3 exercises.
Up, moderate, heavy, back off, 3 exercises, hit,
up,
maybe
and I'll
effective
explain
1
it,
month
knob.
of the year. Once you have established good, solid gains, what do you think, Scott? Great show as always.
Right, so 3 exercises per body part.
Okay.
Pyramid weight. So you go up weight in each set to hit a max effort weight, and then you pull it back down for a set afterwards, which is a way I really do like to train. And then once a month or so, move to some HIIT work with high intensity, but not to maintain that year round, to give a bit of a shock factor, freshen up.
So you only do the HIIT, you only do the high intensity once a month?
That's what he's saying, a month of high intensity. Or it might be once a month, or it might be a month of high intensity. I'm not sure on that bit.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either.
I think the problem with HIIT is that most people can't actually do it. And people get upset probably and say, oh, I train. Everyone trains fucking hard. You speak to anyone. When's the last time someone said to you, I train shit, really? But the point is, HIIT really is next level if it's done properly. And I couldn't sustain HIIT week in, week out. No chance. I just didn't have the mental fortitude to it. And I feel I trained relatively hard. So I had to add a little bit more volume. It was HIIT-esque. But I just added a little bit more volume. You know, I needed longer warm-ups. It took me a lot to really get warm. So I would do longer warm-ups. And I would find, let's for argument's sake, squat. So start with a plate, then 2 plates, then 3 plates, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, fail, and then come back down. I'll probably come back down to 4 and rep out. The rep out set at 4, I would be stronger and find the weight lighter than the 4 plate set I did on the way up, because by this time I'm fully warm and everything's firing. So I do think sometimes we need more warm up than we realise. But I've always liked progressive in that sense. So it effectively pyramid, but I always used to just do like a 30-40% weight drop, and then a high rep set off the back of my heavy intense stuff. But yeah, no, I think and I didn't change my workout bar the odd session for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
I did the same workout week in, week out. Every now and again I'd go in and be like, I'm not feeling this today. I'll do a bit of supersetting, or I'll do some high rep stuff. But predominantly it was the same workout every week.
One of the things I've said to help people bring up their intensity, and I've heard a lot of positive responses to this. It worked well for me too, and this is something I picked up from Jordan years back, was to do your heaviest set first. You know, I used to, years back, let's say that like 100s are what you can handle on the dumbbell press. Like that's my heavy set for 10 reps. I can get 100s. I would, in the past, years back, I would, warm up with lighter weights, work up to the 60s, and then get to the 80s, and that's decently heavy. And I'd do, okay, well, this is pretty heavy. I'm going to do 10 reps with the 80s, and then 10 reps with the 90s, and then 10 reps with the 100s, and then I'm done, like that's 3 sets, and they're all pretty heavy, right? But my perspective shifted to think, okay, well, if I can get the 100s for 10 after I did the 90s for 10 and the 80s for 10, well, why not try to use less energy to get to those 100s? Instead, don't do the 10 reps, don't do the 10 reps, warm up earlier on, and then shift to feeder sets, 2-3 reps, and give myself a couple minutes to rest and work my way up so that the 100s are my first set, and get as much as I can out of that. And let's say I hit my target number 10, then I'll do a second set of 10. And if I were doing 3 sets, if I could get 10 the second time, I'd get 10 again. But if I couldn't get my target reps, then I would back off by 10%.
I think what's probably a little bit misleading between the two of us here is you're saying your first set is 100 pound dumbbells.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's not your first set, is it? It's your 4th or 5th. It's what you're classing as your first working set.
Yeah. But if I were to pick up the 80s, or the 90s, I'm only going to do 2 reps.
Well, I would, so similar approach, same setup. First of all, my heavy set would only be 6 reps anyway.
Okay.
But I would, let's say I'm doing 100 and I'm getting 5 to 6 reps.
Okay.
So I would go, in this scenario, I'd do 20 for probably 8 or 10, nice and slow and controlled, 40 for 8, 60 for 6, 80 for 6, 100 to failure. If I got 6, then I'd go up to 110.
Okay.
Or 105, depending on the dumbbell jumps, and go again.
Right.
And then I would pull that back by about 30-40% and do a rep set of somewhere between 12 and 15 reps. If I get 6 on my heaviest set, then the weight's going up, if not this week, next week.
Yeah, yeah.
If I get 15 on my pullback set, then the weight's going up next week. And then I'd shuffle the jumps to accommodate. So let's say I went up to 110. I'd probably do 85 as a preceding set and 60 as a set towards that. And then as that weight increased, so when I was getting up to, say, 160s or 180s, they might be 30-pound jumps So it might be 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. And that's how I would structure it. For me, I used the preceding sets to really settle my brain, and I was a big one for envisaging how the muscle moved and really connecting in that sense. And I was a very big form junkie as well. So I don't think it sort of matters as long as you're warm enough to perform the heaviest stress you're doing.
Yeah.
It's about the intensity you apply at that point rather than how you get there. I personally liked a bit more volume going into it because I never felt ready to go max effort without more warm-up. And at the end of the day, yes, I may have been a little bit pre-exhaust going into that heavy set, but I was also mentally prepared to push to the absolute limit in that heavy set. Whereas if I'd have gone into it early, I probably wouldn't have been as mentally prepared.
It's your central nervous system that needs to be queued up. There's like two elements to warming up. There's the joints and the muscle, all that. And then there's the central nervous system. There's been plenty of times, where I think we've all maybe lifted a given weight for 6 reps. And we're like, damn, that's heavy. And then we do another set of it 2 minutes later and we get it for 10 reps. And we're like, wow, it was lighter that time.
There's definitely that, which is obviously a more thorough warm-up coming off it. But there's also the mental, when you start getting into heavy weights, there's also the mental preparedness. So for argument's sake,
I lump that into the central nervous system stuff personally.
When you say I did, let's take the squat again. So I'm my max weight's 7 plates aside, and I go to 5 or 5.5, and I only do 2-3 reps. When I step out with 7, mentally that's like, fuck me, this is a huge jump in weight.
Yeah.
Where if I've done 6 plates prior with a comfortable solid 6 reps, when I'm stepping out with 7, I don't feel like I've suddenly put the world on my back. I mean, it feels...
Yeah, you don't want to feel that way.
Yeah, and so there's that element for me as well, is it's mentally prepared, because when you start getting... And I've had a lot of muscle tears. They're all partials. I've never had a detachment. Apart from my pec. But they've never come at single reps. They've always come at rep 8 or rep 9 or something like that, because I would really push to the absolute limit of my capability. Yeah. But I needed to mentally get myself into the position to be able to do that.
I agree. I'm doing it a little bit differently. And my main point is just to do whatever for you is the absolute least amount you need. Maybe for Dave, it's 6 reps, whatever for you is the least amount you need to get there. That's what I would focus on. And I would rather that somebody did a little bit more than they needed versus a little bit less than they needed to get there.
I think most people don't train intensely enough, and they don't actually do enough. But I also think when you're a larger body frame, naturally, i.e. prone to be carrying more fat naturally, you probably do need a slightly more voluminous approach to your training. Whereas if you're naturally lean, then you probably need to lean into the hip work a little bit more than you would otherwise. But yeah, I spent years experimenting and playing around, and I settled on that, and it worked religiously. But a lot of it was form discipline as well. So my failure rep, which might take me literally 15 seconds to get out, if I got it out, would be in exact same form as my lightest rep on the lightest set that I did. That took years to develop that discipline. That took years to be able to lock in to position, but then give max effort. Yeah. And I think a lot of people focus on completing the rep, when what you should be focusing on is working the muscle. And it is different, because to complete the rep, you'll cheat. To complete the rep, you'll bring secondary and tertiary muscles into play, where if you focus on just frying the muscle you're training, you keep them out, and you'll get much more effective growth. And it's also about cheating stimulus in little places. How many times do you see people say they're doing a failure set, but actually what they do is they stop when they don't think they can get another rep?
Absolutely. And that's something you have to learn.
It is. It's something that comes with time, and not everybody's capable of it. And I think that's the other thing, is recognising where your strengths and weaknesses are and adapting your training to accommodate that. You know, if you can't go to that point where you're pushing the absolute balls and almost giving birth, then maybe look at a drop set or something of that nature, so you get that extra intensity without having to push to the absolute limit mentally of what you're physically capable of doing.
Hey, on the note of how that was put together, what did Tanya say here? There's plenty of commas and periods to go around, folks. There's no raw shortage on those. Go crazy. Also, somebody else brought up what Ron said on the last It's Just Bodybuilding. How did he word it? He said he said Ron's response was hilarious. It's all about your comma placement. I helped my Uncle Jack off a horse. Take the commas out of that one and you got something completely different.
Well, I hope the horse was happy.
Somebody commented, Paul Borison said that test sip was crap 30 years ago. Did you know
Paul
that?
Morrison said a lot of shit. Some of it very clever, some of it very mad.
I didn't know that.
I've got a lot of respect for Paul. There's a mixed bag of information with Paul. I mean, he was light years ahead on things like insulin and stuff like that. He was light years ahead.
Ooh, we got one more. This is from Patreon, and then we got to hear some Uncle Dave's advice. Guys, I love the podcast. Keep up the good work. Looking for some guidance. I'm 52 years old, former high-level athlete. The past 2 years, I've lost 100 pounds. Quit drinking, diet dialed in, training 4 to 5 days a week. Transformation has been great. I am looking to boost my results. I've been on TRT dose of 200 milligrams a week for a very long time, doing it wrong most of the time. I was thinking of adding 2 to 3 IU of HGH and 100 milligrams of MAST. Thought being gains could pass as just progress as all the hard work I'm putting in. Does this even make sense?
Yes.
This will be my first pass at this. My blood work is very clean to start.
Basically, what he's saying is he doesn't want to do a full-blown cycle because he doesn't want to visually represent that. So if he does a lower, what we would say was TRT plus.
Little stealth cycle, basically?
Basically a sports TRT. That he would see progressive gains that would fall in line with more looking like natural progress.
Gotcha.
Which is true, it would. Yeah, I mean, if you don't want that obvious sudden jump in mass and performance to be a telltale sign, then just slight adjustment, which what you're talking about, is probably going to be the way to go.
2 to 3 units of growth and 100 mass. I think he'd probably feel great off that. And he'd definitely get some great improvements, too, in the gym.
Yeah, I think he would.
Yeah, I'm all for that. Yeah, I say go for it, man. And keep us posted. Let us know, dude. Huge transformation already. Dude, I think quitting drinking was probably the number one thing that he could have done for his health. Even if he didn't start lifting and getting in shape, which are all obvious bonuses. But just like getting the alcohol out of your system. If he was a big drinker, like at 52, man, that's
obviously
rough.
It's going to play havoc with estrogen management from the TRT point of view. You're going to be running high estrogen on a regular basis if you're drinking alcohol with tests.
Oh,
so.
yeah. Not to mention the calories, the sugars,
everything
your
else that comes with it.
your
Yeah,
liver.
everything. Fully agree.
Dave, we didn't get any Uncle Dave's wisdom last week because you were gone.
No,
And
you didn't get any of the week
we've
before
all
either.
been running. No, we didn't get any the week before either. We've all been just kind of running around lost without you.
I don't agree with that or believe that for 1 second. But I did actually message you with a little quote, didn't I? I messaged you with a little quote saying, stay analog in a digital world.
Yeah, you sure did, didn't you?
Yes. So, this was quite weird, actually, because... No, that's a sideline. I'm not going to go down there. So, I think the bodybuilding world in particular, and probably the biohacking world as well, gives a magnifying glass on people trying to improve themselves, and that the general appetite within these communities for chemical support and chemical advancement is obviously much greater than in the average population. But there is always a little bit of a filter down, particularly with stuff that works. And, you know, the popularity of GLPs in the general population is massive. And the growing popularity of peptides in the general population is definitely starting to show.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you speak, when we do blood reports, we may have someone who has low folate or low B12.
Okay.
Now, we may suggest improving dietary intake, but we will always suggest supplementation. The reason being, because we know people won't change their dietary intake and they'll just go by the pills. Now, we have very much developed within the bodybuilding community to a large scale a pill for every ill. So we have a chemical or vitamin-based solution to every problem, even though the problem may be something that can be dealt with in different ways, i.e. lifestyle changes. You know, blood pressure might be a bit high. Okay, well, let's manage stress. Let's lower stimulants. Let's do some HIIT cardio. Let's get you cardiovascularly fit. No, what we'll do is we'll take Testosterone because it will lower his blood pressure. Now, I'm not standing in judgment of this at all, but because at the end of the day, you know, it's your life, your choice. You do what the hell you fucking want with it. But there is a danger, and we see this, or I see this with brain stims, nootropics as well, where we start to rely on chemical solutions for every problem we ever encounter. I can't sleep. Yeah, let's not think about managing my stress levels. Let's just take a sleeping tablet. I can't do this. Okay, well, let me just take this tablet and that tablet. Now, we're really bad for this in the bodybuilding community, and the biohack industry is very similar as well. The negative to that is that we start to become reliant on whatever compound it is we're using, and it might just be a supplement. It might be just magnesium before bed, or it could be something stronger. But the thing is, we start to become reliant on that, and as a result, we start to neglect our own self-management. And there is a danger long term, and I do think we're going to head this way, is that we become a society, a species that has or is in danger of forgetting how to manage themselves and just leans into chemicals to fix every problem. Now, the problem is the more you lean into the chemicals, the less you neglect self-management. The more you neglect self-management, the less capable are you of regulating your emotions, dealing with stress and everything that comes with it. If those drugs go, you're fucked. Yeah. Because you haven't developed the coping mechanisms.
Does it have to be one or the other, though?
No, not at all. This is not you shouldn't do X and you must do Y. This is just be wary that if you're doing X, the drug route, that you don't neglect the Y. Because
and I agree with you, but I wanted to say that because I feel like a lot of times people will hear it very myopically. It's one way or the other. No, not
in a slight. No, I'm just saying, just because it's like, so in the UK, 20 million work days a year are lost through sickness.
Okay.
Of that sickness, 10 million are mental health.
Okay.
Now, in my opinion, the biggest single problem with mental health is that.
A little tiny book?
A phone.
Oh, it's a phone. Your phone? Your phone is responsible for
my phone has
health?
ruined the world, yes.
Wow.
You know, we get overstimulated. We get such a bombardment of information that we are actually able to cope with.
Yeah, that's true.
We physically
can't
can't
even process half of what we're seeing, right?
No, we can't. And what we don't realize is that it is still going on in the background, and your brain is trying to work through this stuff.
Yeah.
So the biggest cause of stress, without doubt, and low mental health, in my opinion, in modern living, is the mobile phone. It's an amazing tool, and having the information on our fingertips is brilliant, but it's a double-edged sword, and it needs discipline. So my only point of all this is, in a world that I coin as becoming more and more digital, i.e. we're looking at chemical solutions and that side of things, don't neglect the analog side of your life, which is just basic good old-fashioned time down, relaxation, having a little bit of me time, and because I think in general as a species we are struggling to cope with life on a broad basis.
Yeah.
And we're leaning more and more into chemical fixes for that. And I can see...
This is what I see when I look at my phone.
Long term in the future.
Stuff like that.
What, a picture of you?
It's a picture of a pimple. I intentionally, I make sure that the stuff that I process is makes me happy,
I don't have a lot of the world life problems on my phone either.
Yeah, I don't want that, man. I try to stay away from that. That's one of the reasons too. Our shows, Dave, we don't get into all the politics because guess what, man? People get enough of that crap. We've had it. People are like, why aren't you guys talking about the big issues going on in the world? You have this big platform that you should be, taking advantage of. And it's like, no, you guys hear enough of that stuff. You're not tuning in here to hear us share our unqualified opinions. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, I mean,
have some
firstly,
fun.
I don't have enough knowledge to comment on that sort of stuff. I genuinely don't. And it's very polarizing topics.
Yeah.
I mean, I made the mistake of, so there's a guy, I can't remember his name, but he's a vegan bodybuilder, and he co-ops up on my feed, and I've got no issue with vegans, your life choice, do what you want, but some of his posts are a bit inflammatory and a bit challenging deliberately. I don't know what he's trying to do. He's trying to convert people to follow his lifestyle choice, which is fine, all right.
As religion?
Certain ones can be a bit that way, and he put that people who are non-vegan get angry about vegans because it's driven by guilt about eating meat, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's driven by the fact that you try and force your belief and your opinion on other people. I respect your choice, but you won't respect my choice. And this was just followed with, must have been 30, 40 comments about how I was wrong and I was evil and I was this and I was that. And it was like, everyone's just proving my point.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't expect people to respect your choices if you're so passionate about what you believe in that blinds you to respecting their choice to do what they want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
And it comes from passion, and I get that, and I respect the passion. But you just need, there needs to be a balance with these things. So it was all I wanted to really come across was just in the modern world, it's getting more and more modern, more and more digitized, more and more convenient. Old school actually isn't as bad as you might think it is. And a combination of having some chemical or supplemental support while you work on the issues is going to be a much better approach than just relying on the chemicals, because the more you rely on the chemicals, the more you will neglect that area of your own development. And as a result, the more of a problem it will become.
Yeah. I like that. That's good. We needed some advice, and I think you delivered today, Dave.
I need a fucking pay is what I need.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Drugs and Stuff. Go to evalbloodanalysis.com and get your labs done by Dave, and truenutrition.com. Use our code THINK to get 10% off all your basic bodybuilding supplements, including high-quality protein powder. In fact, I switched to the whey protein concentrate because it's far cheaper, and guess what? It digests just fine for me. So if you want to save some money, check out the whey protein concentrate. Strom Sports Nutrition, for those of you in the UK and the US, they have great health stacks, especially if you're on cycle, and supplementsource.ca for Canadians. Great deals that change week to week. Dave, for another episode of the podcast, I'll see you soon. Thank you.
It's a business-to-business fitness thing. It's been going a few years. It's steadily growing each year and getting better.
Okay.
It wasn't bad. You don't get We don't do blood testing. It's all about connections and networking and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And we didn't get tons of leads, but what we got was good quality.
Okay.
So I actually like it. It's nice. It's relaxed. It's not stupidly loud.
Yeah, it sounds like more of a professional setting.
Yeah, and what they do as well, which I thought was brilliant, you know the silent discos?
No, I've never heard of that.
So basically what it is, everybody in a silent disco wears headphones.
Oh, I just started watching a TV show where these kids had a rave in the UK, and they all met up at a bonfire, and they all put their earbuds in.
So it was, originally they were called silent discos. So basically what you do is you go to an event. Now you had a DJ and everybody listened to the same music. Others, you could pick different music.
Okay.
Depending on what channel you tuned into.
Oh.
So what they did for this was all the guests that were doing, because there's a lot of seminars on this event.
Okay.
So all the guests that were doing seminars had this silent disco set up. So there was no noise battle with the guys doing seminars trying to shout over someone who's playing music on the stand to some. It worked really well.
Okay.
So if you went to a seminar, you could actually fucking hear what they were saying.
I could have used that at the Olympia last year. They set our booth up right next to the Red Bull booth, and all the Red Bull booth was a van.
A DJ. With a DJ.
A van with speakers all over the top of the van, and then some guy in front of it just like hitting buttons, bump, 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 and some girl, handing out, here's your Red
free
Bull,
Red Bull. Yeah, same
Yeah.
as they had Red Bull at this one, and it was very similar.
Okay. Man. Oh, let's see if we got anybody in our chat. We got some people hanging out with us, Dave. People like you, Dave. Did you know that?
No, I think that's a lie.
No, they really do. They like you. They tune in just to see you and say hi and stuff. Look at it. We got a bunch of people. I bet angry listeners with us. Let's see. Of course, angry listeners with us. And Dalton is with us. Live with Uncle Dave. And of course, Blunt Force Tanya and the Lolly is with us. So let me tell you something. The Lolly, I just did his check-in. In fact, I have it open in the background here.
Oh, you talk about me being all the stuff going on when I'm supposed to be doing the podcast, and you're doing check-ins, right?
No, this is before while I was waiting for you, because we're an hour late, Dave. Okay? Listen, I wasn't going to say anything. You were. So get this. He's pretty lean. We see the outline of his glutes still. And he's 277 pounds. And he's 2 weeks into his off-season cycle.
Ooh.
He's gonna
300. Here we come.
Oh, dude, no problem, right? We're not adding anything right now, because I don't want to get him fat, but like too fast, because then it's over, right? So he was 274 last week, a week into the cycle. Now he's 277 a week later. Like, he's eating plenty of food, so we're just going to, like, keep cruising with this. He's training freaking hard, too, man.
Yeah, he's going to be a big boy at the end of this.
Yes. Zionic, am I shadow blocked? No, I just didn't mention everybody else beyond that. What's up?
He doesn't like you, mate. He just doesn't like you. He keeps telling me this on the slides. He'll send me messages going, don't like this person, don't like this person. Honestly, he's terrible for it.
What's up, Necrophil?
Is that really a good name?
I think he said it was like related to a movie or something.
It's related to something else as well.
Yes, it is. All right, I'll bring us in.